I never thought my heart would start racing in a basement that smelled like dust and old paint. I also never thought it would be because of my best friend's mom. My name is Ryan. I am 24 and I live in a small one-bedroom apartment outside Seattle, Washington. The place is simple. Thin walls, a couch that sinks in the middle, a window that looks out over a row of trash cans, and the back of a grocery store. I work from home as a freelance web designer. I spend most of my time in front of my computer in sweatpants, sipping coffee that is always a little too strong. After my last girlfriend left town a year ago, life got quiet. Too quiet. I told myself I liked it, that I did not need anyone. No drama, no fights, no long talks about feelings. Just me, my laptop, and the blue light of the screen. Some nights that felt safe. Most nights it felt empty. The only person who still pulled me out of that bubble was my best friend, Mark. We met in college and clicked right away. He is the kind of guy who fills a room. Loud laugh, big plans, always talking about the next thing. Even now that he works long hours in downtown Seattle, we still text, send each other dumb videos, and talk trash about games we never finish. That night, I was halfway through a cold slice of pepperoni pizza, sitting on my couch in the dark. The glow from the TV flickered on the walls, some show I was not really watching. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then I thought it might be a client. I wiped my fingers on my t-shirt and picked up. "Hello," I said. "Ryan? It is Claire, Mark's mom." Her voice hit me like a memory. Warm, soft, but tight at the edges. I sat up straight. I had not seen her in months, not since Mark and I crashed at her house after a late game night. Back then, she made grilled cheese sandwiches at midnight and called us her boys, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Hey, Ms. Campbell," I said. "Everything okay?" There was a small breath on the other end of the line, the kind that sounds like a half laugh and half sigh. "Not exactly," she said. "I am sorry to bother you, honey. There's something in my basement. I think it is a cat. It has been crying for a while now, and I do not know what to do. Mark told me once you were good with animals. You rescued a kitten when you were young, right?" I had told Mark that story a long time ago, a tiny kitten stuck under our old shed. An hour of crawling in the dirt, getting scratched to pieces, but I got it out. "Yeah," I said. "I did. Are you sure it is a cat and not like a raccoon?" "It sounds like a cat," she said, her voice dropped softer. "It sounds scared." I called animal control, but they said they cannot come until tomorrow. I do not want to leave it like that overnight. The word scared sank into me. I looked around my apartment. Empty pizza box, open laptop, the same four walls. Then I thought about Mark. About all the times he had driven across town at midnight just because I needed help with something dumb. "Okay," I said, standing up. "I will come over. Give me 15 or 20 minutes. "Really?" she said. I could hear the relief right away. "Thank you, Ryan. Thank you." We hung up. I pulled on a clean hoodie, grabbed my old flashlight from the closet, and found a pair of work gloves stuffed in a drawer. I had a cardboard pet carrier left over from a shelter visit months ago. I tossed everything in the back seat and headed out. The drive to her house felt strange and familiar at the same time. I had been there 100 times with Mark. Sleepovers, study sessions, Super Bowl nights. Now the streets were darker, the trees heavier with late fall leaves, porch lights glowing on neat little houses. I turned onto a road, and my stomach did a small flip. Her house looked the same. White siding, front steps with 2 faded flower pots, the porch light casting a soft yellow circle on the door. Mark's car was not in the driveway. For some reason, that detail stuck with me. Before I could knock, the door opened. "Ryan," she said, her mouth curving into a tired smile. Claire stood in the doorway in a loose navy sweatshirt and black leggings. Her dark hair was pulled up into a messy bun. A faint streak of flour marked her cheek like she had been baking and forgot to wipe it off. Her brown eyes looked a little tired, but when they found mine, they warmed. "Hey," I said, suddenly aware of my own messy hair and old sneakers. "You called. I came." "You are a lifesaver," she said, stepping back. Come in. The basement is this way." I followed her inside. The house smelled like cinnamon and something sweet in the oven. The hallway was warm and soft, full of pictures of Mark at different ages. I tried not to stare at the framed photo of him and me at graduation. She opened the basement door, and a thin, broken meow floated up. It sounded like someone had turned fear into a sound. "Poor thing," she murmured. The basement stairs creaked as we went down. A single bulb hung from the low ceiling, casting weak yellow light. The air was cool and damp. Cardboard boxes were stacked against the walls. An old treadmill stood in one corner. The meowing got louder as we walked toward the far side. "There," she said, pointing near a metal shelf and a heavy toolbox. She picked up a folded towel from a laundry basket and handed it to me. "In case you need it." I crouched down and swept my flashlight along the floor. Two tiny eyes glowed back at me from the shadows. A small gray cat was wedged between the toolbox and the wall, tangled up in a bright orange extension cord. Its fur was dirty and matted. One hind leg was stuck under a loop of cord. Every time it tried to pull away, it let out that sharp, painful cry. "Hey, buddy," I said quietly. "We are going to get you out, okay?" The cat hissed and flattened itself even more. It did not have anywhere to go. Claire knelt down beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat from her shoulder. She held her phone up with the flashlight on, keeping the light steady on the cat. "Be careful," she said. I heard the strain in her voice even though she was trying to sound calm. "It is okay," I said. I was not sure if I was talking to her or the cat. I slid the toolbox a few inches away, slow so I would not crush any paws. The cord was tight around the cat's leg. It swiped at my glove, claws catching the leather, but I kept my hand there. I talked in a low, steady voice, just simple words, the kind you use on a scared kid. "It is okay." "Almost done." "You are okay." I could feel Claire watching me. Every time the cat cried out, her breath caught. After a few minutes that felt much longer, I got my fingers under the cord and loosened it enough to slip it over the cat's leg. As soon as it was free, the cat tried to bolt. I was ready. I dropped the towel over it and wrapped it up, firm but gentle. It squirmed in my arms, heart pounding against my hands, then went still. "Got you," I whispered. "Did you get it?" Claire asked, leaning close. I turned, holding the warm bundle against my chest. In the dim light, her face looked softer, worry lines easing as she saw the towel move. "Yeah," I said. "We are good." We went back up the stairs, her in front, flipping on lights as we went. At the back door, I set the carrier down and slowly peeled the towel back. The cat shot out in a flash of gray, limping but fast, and slipped through a gap in the fence into the night. For a moment we just stood there, side by side at the open door, staring at the empty patch of yard. Cool air drifted in, smelling like wet grass and cold metal. "Do you want some water or something?" she asked, turning to look at me. "You look like you just ran a race." I laughed, feeling the tension slide out of my shoulders. "Water sounds great," I said. In the kitchen, the smell of warm sugar and cinnamon wrapped around us. A tray of cookies waited on the counter, not baked yet. A mixing bowl and whisk sat in the sink. She poured 2 glasses of cold water, handed one to me, and leaned back against the counter. "I really was going to wait for animal control," she said. "But when they said tomorrow, I kept hearing that little cry in my head. I could not just go to bed." "I get it," I said, taking a sip. It sounded terrified. She looked at me then, really looked. Not just at my gloves or the towel or the carrier at my feet, but at my face. At me. "You came fast," she said quietly. "You did not ask many questions. You just showed up." I shrugged, feeling my face grow warm. The kitchen felt smaller all of a sudden. The space between us felt charged. "It was nothing," I said. "Mark has helped me out 1,000,000 times, and you sounded worried." Her fingers tightened around her glass. She took a breath. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, less sure, like the words mattered more. "You came just for me?" she asked. The question hung there between us. floating in the warm kitchen air. My heart thudded hard against my ribs. I knew she was not just talking about a scared cat in the basement. I opened my mouth to answer, but the words stuck in my throat. My tongue felt heavy. I could have made a joke, brushed it off, said something safe. Instead, I set my glass down on the counter so I would not drop it. "I came because you called," I said slowly. "And because you sounded like you needed someone." That was enough for me. I watched her face. For a second, I thought I had said too much. Then her shoulders relaxed and something in her eyes softened, like I had taken a weight from her. "Well," she said, a small smile pulling at her lips, "you picked a good night to be a decent human being." I let out a breath I did not know I was holding. We both laughed, and the tight feeling in my chest loosened a little. She glanced at the tray on the counter. "You like cinnamon cookies?" she asked. I raised an eyebrow. "Is that a trick question?" She smiled wider. "Sit. I will put them in the oven." I sat at the small table near the window while she moved around the kitchen. She slid the tray into the oven, set a timer, rinsed the mixing bowl. I watched her without meaning to. The way she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. The way she hummed under her breath. The way she checked the oven twice, even though the light was on. "So," she said after a moment, leaning on the back of the chair across from me, "Mark tells me you are still doing web stuff, making the internet pretty." "Something like that," I said, "mostly fixing broken sites for small businesses and trying to make menus big enough for people to read." She laughed, that low, warm laugh I remembered from college nights. "Do you like it?" Quote, I thought about my small apartment, the glow of my screen, the silence. "I like parts of it," I said. "It makes sense. You find a bug, you fix it, it stays fixed. People are not that simple." Her smile faded a little. "No," she said, "they are not." "What about you?" I asked. "Still working with books?" She nodded. "Freelance editing now. Memoirs, romance, self-help. A lot of stories about people trying to find themselves." "Does that get depressing?" I asked. "It depends," she said. "Sometimes it is inspiring. Sometimes I want to throw my laptop out the window when someone writes about perfect love like it is a recipe. Add one kiss, one fight, one big speech, and everything is fine. Real life does not work like that." The timer beeped. She turned away to pull the cookies from the oven. The warm smell filled the room. For a moment, I did not feel like the guy who hid behind a screen all day. I just felt present. We took the cookies and our water to the back steps. The night was cool and quiet. The porch light made a soft circle around us. Beyond that, the yard disappeared into dark. Crickets filled the silence. We sat side by side, our knees a few inches apart. She handed me a cookie. "So," she said, "anyone special in your life these days?" I broke the cookie in half and watched the steam rise. "Not really," I said. "I tried a couple of times after college, but they said I was too quiet, too comfortable being alone." She turned her head, studying my face. "I do not think that is a bad thing," she said, "being okay alone." "Maybe," I said, "still gets lonely." She looked back out at the yard. "I know that feeling," she said softly. "Mark is gone most of the time. Work, friends, his own life. The house gets quiet. Some days I talk to the TV like it is a person." I smiled at that, but my chest felt tight. "You could call someone," I said. "You called me tonight." Quote. Her fingers relaxed around her cookie. "I almost did not," she said. "I stared at your number for 5 minutes. I did not want to bother you." "You were not bothering me," I said. "I was just sitting with cold pizza and reruns. This was better." She looked at me again. This time there was no joke in her eyes. Just that open, careful look that made me feel seen in a way I was not used to. "Thank you for coming, Ryan," she said. "For me, for the cat, for not making me feel silly." "You never could," I said. We fell quiet after that. We finished our cookies. The night wrapped around us like a blanket. I noticed how close our shoulders were. If I shifted an inch, I could have touched her arm. I did not. My heart was already beating fast enough. When I finally stood to leave, it was later than I meant. She walked me to the front door. "Mark will be mad he missed you," she said. "Tell him I stole his favorite cookie," I said. "He will forgive me." She laughed and opened the door. Cool air slipped in from the porch. For a second, she just stood there, hand on the frame, looking at me like she was about to say something else. Then she just said, "Good night, Ryan." "Good night, Claire," I said. Her name felt different on my tongue, less like Mark's mom, more like her. On the drive home, the streets were empty, but my head was loud. I kept replaying moments, her voice on the phone, the way she knelt beside me in the basement, the question in the kitchen, "You came just for me?" When I lay down in my own bed, my apartment felt smaller than usual. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the fridge, thinking about her porch light. The next few days, I tried to fall back into my routine. Wake up, coffee, code. Answer emails, take breaks to scroll through my phone. At night, heat up leftovers and pretend the quiet did not bother me. But little things kept pulling me back to that night. When a stray cat darted across the road outside my window, my chest tightened. When I opened my cabinet and saw the empty pet carrier, I thought of her yard and the way she had said "poor thing" under her breath. On Thursday afternoon, Mark texted me, "You alive, man?" Barely, I wrote back. Drowning in broken websites. He sent a laughing emoji then. "Mom said you rescued a demon cat for her. Nice job, hero." I stared at the screen. Part of me wanted to ask what she had told him. Instead, I typed, "She did all the hard work. I just untangled wires. Tell her I say hi," he wrote. "I will try to get out there this weekend. Been working late a lot." "You should," I answered. "She misses you." I did not add that I had seen that truth in her eyes. On Friday night, I found a phone charger on my coffee table that was not mine. Mark had left it there weeks ago when he stopped by to borrow a game. It gave me an excuse I knew I was too eager to use. I sat in my car for a full minute outside her house, charger in my hand. The sun was low. The sky was streaked with pink and gold. Her porch light clicked on, as if it knew I was there. Before I could talk myself out of it, I walked up the path and knocked. The door opened after just a few seconds. Claire stood there in black leggings and a long, soft gray sweater. Her hair was down this time, falling over her shoulders in loose waves. There was a faint smudge of ink on her thumb. "Ryan," she said, surprise flashing across her face, then something warmer. "Hi." "Hey," I said, lifting the charger. "Mark left this at my place. Thought I would drop it off before he blames me for stealing his stuff." She smiled. "He is not here," she said. "He had to work late again." "Oh," I said, feeling that word land heavier than it should. She hesitated for half a second. Then she stepped back and opened the door wider. "Well," she said, "I just made way too much pasta for one person. Do you want to help me fix that problem?" Quote, I should have said something casual like, "I cannot stay long." Instead, I heard myself say, "Yeah, I can help with that." The kitchen was warm and cozy. A pot of sauce simmered on the stove. A big bowl of salad sat on the counter. She moved around the space with easy steps, grabbing plates, stirring the sauce, reaching for glasses. "Sit," she said, nodding toward the small table. "You are a guest. Guests do not get to work." I sat, watching her. My chest felt light and heavy at the same time. This did not feel like dropping off a charger. It felt like walking into something I did not have a name for yet. We sat down with full plates, and the first bite of pasta made me close my eyes for a second. "This is amazing," I said. "You could open a restaurant." She snorted softly. "I would hate it," she said. "Too many people. I like cooking for one or two. Feels more real." We ate and talked. She told me about a romance novel she was editing that week, laughing at how the main couple solved every problem with one big kiss in the rain. I told her about a client who forgot their own password 3 times in one day. At some point, without thinking, I said, "It sounds lonely sometimes." The editing. She looked at her fork. "It can be," she said. "Quiet days, quiet nights. You get used to your own voice in your head." Quote, "I get that," I said. "Maybe too much." Her eyes flicked up to mine. "Then why does it feel different when you are here?" she asked, almost to herself. My heart thudded again. I did not have an answer that did not sound too honest. After dinner, we moved to the living room. She put on a soft playlist from her phone. We sat on opposite ends of the couch. A safe space between us, but not as wide as it used to be. We talked about small things at first, then bigger things. Her divorce, my last breakup, the way time feels faster after 20. At one point, she reached out without thinking and brushed a bit of sauce from the corner of my mouth with her thumb. The touch was light, but my whole body lit up. "Messy," she said with a smile. "You need supervision." "For pasta, sure," I said. "Other things, I am not so sure." Her eyes held mine for a beat longer than felt normal. Then she looked away and the moment slipped, but it did not vanish. Later, when I stood by the door holding my jacket, she walked me out again. "Thank you for staying," she said. "I like cooking for someone who actually notices." "Thank you for feeding me," I said. "My microwave is going to be jealous." She laughed. Then her face grew serious. "Ryan," she said, "you know you do not have to come running every time I call or text, right?" I looked at her, at the tired lines near her eyes, at the way she tried to act casual and failed just a bit. "I know," I said, "but I want to." Her lips parted like she was about to say something else. Instead, she just nodded. That night, back in my apartment, I did not turn on the TV. I sat in the quiet, my mind replaying her words, her touch, her question from the first night. "You came just for me?" I was still thinking about it 2 days later when my phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text from her. "The cat is back by the fence. I think it is hurt. Can you come?" My heart kicked hard. I did not think. I grabbed my keys, the pet carrier, my flashlight, and headed for the door. The streets were wet and shiny when I pulled out of the parking lot. Light rain tapped the windshield. My wipers squeaked every few seconds. My chest felt too tight for something that was supposed to be about a cat, but I already knew it was not just about that. By the time I turned onto her street, her porch light was on. The house glowed warm against the dark. I parked at the curb, grabbed the carrier and my flashlight, and headed around the side toward the backyard. Claire was already outside near the back steps, arms crossed over her sweatshirt, bare feet on the cold wood. Her hair was down, falling over her shoulders. She looked smaller in the night, like the quiet had pressed in on her. "He is over there," she said as soon as she saw me, pointing toward the fence. Her voice shook just a little. "I think it is the same one." The grass was damp under my shoes. The air smelled like wet dirt and pine. I followed a thin, broken sound until the flashlight beam landed on him. The same gray cat from the basement. This time he was curled tight against the fence, fur-soaked, one front leg bent at a bad angle. "Hey, buddy," I said, kneeling down. "You again." The cat hissed once, then went quiet, like he had given up. Claire came up beside me, close enough that her hip brushed my shoulder when she leaned down. She held a towel in both hands. I could see they were shaking. "I called the emergency vet," she said. "They said we can bring him in. I did not want to move him alone." "You did the right thing," I said. "We will get him there." I spread the towel on the ground and moved slow, talking more for her than for the cat. "It is okay. We are going to help you. Almost done." When I slid my hands under him, he let out a sharp cry that cut right through me. His body was warm and light. I wrapped the towel around him, keeping his injured legs still. He trembled against my chest. "Got him," I said, standing up. Claire let out a breath that sounded like relief and guilt mixed together. "Poor thing," she whispered. "Why would he come back here after all that?" "Maybe he knows this yard is safe," I said, looking at her. "Maybe he remembers who cared before." Her eyes met mine for a second. Something passed between us that had nothing to do with fur and broken bones. We put the cat in the carrier and hurried to her car. The old sedan smelled like coffee and rain. She drove, both hands tight on the wheel. The streetlights painted moving shadows across her face. The carrier sat in my lap. I kept one hand pressed to the towel, feeling the quick beat of the small heart under it. "I am sorry I keep dragging you into this," she said, eyes on the road. "You probably had plans." This is better than my plans, I said. I mean that. She gave a soft huff that was almost a laugh. You are strange, Ryan, she said quietly. Most people run from other people's problems. I guess I run toward yours, I said before I could stop myself. Her fingers tightened on the wheel. She did not answer, but she did not tell me I was wrong. At the vet, the waiting room was bright and too clean. A sleepy receptionist took the carrier and disappeared through a swinging door. We were left with hard plastic chairs and posters of smiling dogs on the walls. We sat side by side, our knees almost touching. Water dripped from my jacket onto the tile. Claire twisted a tissue in her hands until it tore. Do you think he will be okay? She asked. I hope so, I said. We got him here fast. That has to help. She nodded, but kept looking at the door. A few minutes later, a tired-looking vet came out. Sprained leg and maybe a small fracture, she said. We will splint it and keep him here a few days. You did the right thing bringing him in. Claire's shoulders dropped. Thank you, she said. Can you call me with updates? They talked for another minute, but I barely heard them. I was too focused on the way Claire wiped the corner of her eye when she thought no one was looking. On the drive back, she did not turn on the radio. The car was filled with the low hum of the engine and the soft rush of rain. I hate that sound, she said suddenly, her voice low. The way he cried when you picked him up. Knowing he was scared and hurting and I could not fix it alone. You did not leave him, I said. You called. That is something. You came, she said. It was not a question this time, just a plain fact. We pulled into her driveway. The house looked softer than usual, with most of the lights off. It felt like the whole street was asleep. You are not driving home wired and soaking like this, she said, turning off the engine. Come in. At least have something hot. Inside, she went straight to the stove and pulled out a small pot. She warmed milk and stirred cocoa powder into it, moving slow, like the simple act was grounding her. I watched from the table, my jacket hanging over the back of the chair, my shirt still damp at the shoulders. She handed me a mug. Our fingers brushed, warm and cold at the same time. Thanks, I said. We took our drinks out to the back steps again. The rain had turned into a light mist. The yard was dark and quiet. The cat's usual spot by the fence was empty, but I could not stop looking at it. For a while, we just sat there, shoulders almost touching, steam rising from our mugs into the cool air. So, she said at last, eyes on the yard, why do you really keep coming when I text about cats or faucets or whatever else breaks in this house? I stared into my cocoa, watching the surface tremble a little in my hands. I could have lied. I could have said I just like helping friends. I could have said it was for Mark. Because it is you, I said. Because you ask. She turned her head. I could feel her looking at me even before I met her eyes. You know I am older than you, she said. You know I am Mark's mom. I know, I said. I know all of that. And it does not scare you off, she asked. I swallowed. My heart picked up again. It should, I said, but it does not. We held each other's gaze. Up close, I could see the faint lines at the corners of our eyes, not from age, but from years of laughing and worrying and staying strong when she was tired. I realized I liked those lines. You are too honest, she murmured, but there was no anger in it, only something like tired affection. She shifted a little closer and leaned her shoulder against mine. It was a small touch. My whole body felt it. I did not think anyone would keep showing up like this, she said. Not for me. Not at this point in my life. I set my mug down on the step and let my arm rest lightly against hers. I did not think I would want to show up for anyone again, I said. Not like this. We sat there in the soft light, listening to the night sounds. The house behind us was warm and still. For a moment, the whole world felt small and clear. Mark does not know you were here tonight, she said after a while. I know, I said. You can tell him it was about the cat if you want, if it comes up. This is not about lying, she said. It is about knowing what we are doing. What are we doing? I asked. The words came out rougher than I meant. She was quiet for a long beat. When she answered, her voice was gentle. Right now, we are just two people who do not feel alone for a few hours, she said. That is all I can handle. The words stung a little, but they also felt honest. I nodded. For now, I said. For now, that is enough. She did not move away. Neither did I. When I finally stood to leave, it was past midnight. She walked me to the front door again. The house felt different now, like it knew my footsteps. At the door, she held my flashlight out to me, fingers brushing mine and staying there a second longer than they needed to. "Ryan," she said softly, "thank you, not just for the cat." "You are welcome," I said. My voice felt thick. "Anytime." She gave that small warning half-smile. "Careful," she said. "You keep saying that, and I am going to believe you mean it." "I already do," I said. Her eyes searched mine for a long second. Then she nodded, like she had decided to trust something she could not see yet. "Good night," she whispered. "Good night," I said. The drive home felt like moving through a dream. The city lights blurred at the edges. My small apartment seemed even smaller when I walked in. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word, every glance, the weight of her shoulder against mine. The next few days, I tried to stay away. I took on extra work. I answered emails late into the night. I told myself I was giving her space. I told myself I needed space too. But Saturday afternoon came, and I found myself turning onto her street like my car had made the choice for me. I told myself I would just drive by, just see the house and keep going. Then I saw it. Mark's car in the driveway. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. For a second, my first instinct was to hit the gas and get out of there. Instead, I pulled up to the curb and sat there, engine off, heart pounding. The curtain in the front window moved. A shadow passed. The front door opened. Mark stepped out onto the porch and squinted toward the street. "Yo!" he called. "Ryan, is that you?" My stomach dropped. I got out of the car and shut the door, my mind racing. I forced a smile on my face as I walked up the path. "Hey, man," I said. "Thought I would swing by. Still remember what your house looks like." Mark came down the steps to meet me, hoodie half-zipped, hair still damp like he had just showered. "About time," he said, clapping my shoulder. "Mom said she thought she saw your car the other night." I told her she was seeing things. My heart skipped. I tried to keep my voice easy. "Maybe she did," I said. "I come through this way sometimes." He looked at me for a second like he was trying to solve a small puzzle. Then he shrugged and grinned. "You've been around here a lot, though," he said. Helping her out. She told me about the cat, the basement, the sink disaster. Thanks for that. I am gone too much. She pretends she is fine, but you know her. The knot in my chest loosened a little. I nodded. "She is strong," I said, "but it helps to have someone around." He jerked his thumb toward the door. "You got time to hang out? She made brownies. If we do not eat them, my coworkers will, and then she will be their favorite person in the world, and her ego does not need that." "Yeah," I said before I could think. "I have time." Inside, the house felt fuller with Mark there, his bag by the couch, his jacket hanging off a chair, his voice filling the space. "Mom," he called. "Your stray coder showed up." Claire turned from the counter, a dish towel in her hands. She wore a soft blue sweater and jeans. Her hair was in a loose braid over one shoulder. When she saw me, something flickered in her eyes. Surprise, then warmth. "Ryan," she said. "Hi." Just that one word did something to me. "Hey," I said. "I heard there were brownies." She rolled her eyes at Mark, but she was smiling. "He is using you," she said, "but yes, there are brownies." We sat at the kitchen table, the three of us. Mark talked about his job, the endless meetings, the late trains. I joked about clients who emailed me at 3 in the morning. Claire listened, added small comments, made sure our plates stayed full. On the surface, it felt like old times. Two friends, one mom, food on the table, easy conversation. Underneath, something else moved. Every time my eyes met hers, my chest tightened. I could see the memory of last week in her face, just as clearly as I felt it in my own. At one point, Mark's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and sighed. "Work," he said. If they call one more time on a weekend, I am going to start charging them for my joy." He stood up. "I will take this in the hall. Try not to eat my share while I am gone." As soon as he left the room, the air changed. It was like someone turned down a noise only we could hear. Claire picked up my empty plate. Her fingers brushed mine. Just a light touch, but it sent a jolt through me. "You did not have to come today," she said in a low voice, keeping her eyes on the plate. "Not when he is here." "I know," I said. "That is why I did." She looked up at me then. For a second, there was something like pride in her eyes and something like fear. "Careful," she murmured. "You keep doing that and I am going to forget how to be alone." "Maybe you do not have to remember," I said. Footsteps sounded in the hall. We both straightened. The moment folded itself up and hid away. The rest of the afternoon, Mark and I played an old video game in the living room. He yelled at the screen, complained about the controls. I talked trash like we were back in his dorm room. Claire watched from the doorway for a while, leaning on the frame with a small, private smile. As the light outside turned orange, Mark grabbed his keys. "I have to head back," he said. "Early shift tomorrow. Mom, you good?" "I am fine," she said. "I have edits to finish." He nodded, then turned to me. His face changed, went softer. "Seriously, man," he said. "Thanks for helping her out, for being around. She acts like she does not need anybody, but I know she feels it when the house is empty." My throat tightened. "Anytime," I said, and I meant it more than he knew. He hugged his mom, clapped my shoulder, and headed out. We listened to his car pull away, the sound fading down the street until the house was quiet again. Too quiet. Claire and I ended up back in the kitchen. The light was softer now, the room dim around the edges. "You heard him," she said, rinsing a mug in the sink. "He likes that you are here. He thinks you are doing him a favor." "Am I not?" I asked. She set the mug down and turned to face me, drying her hands on the towel. "You are," she said. "But you are doing more than that, and that is the part that scares me." Quote, I moved a little closer, not enough to crowd her, just enough that I did not have to raise my voice. "What scares you the most?" I asked. "What people will say, or what you feel?" Her eyes searched mine, steady and sad and strong all at once. "I feel more awake when you are here," she said finally. "I laugh more. I do not feel like I am holding up every wall by myself, and when you leave, the quiet feels louder than it did before." I swallowed. My heart hurt in a good way and a bad way. "That is how it feels for me, too," I said. "I go home and everything looks the same, but it does not feel the same. It feels empty. There are lines we cannot pretend do not exist," she said. "I am older. I am his mother. You are his best friend. People would not understand." "What about you?" I asked. "Do you understand?" She held my gaze like she was choosing each word with care. "I understand that this is real," she said. "Whatever it is, I understand that it did not start on purpose. It started with a scared cat and a basement, and someone who actually showed up when I asked." She drew in a breath. "And I understand that if we are not careful, we could hurt people." "I do not want to hurt anyone," I said. "Not you, not Mark. But I also do not want to pretend there is nothing here." The room felt very small. The hum of the fridge sounded loud in the quiet. "I do not know what this is supposed to look like," I went on. "I just know that when you call, I want to come. When you talk, I want to listen. When you are sitting alone on those steps outside, I want to be there too." She stepped closer. The space between us shrank to almost nothing. I could see the tiny freckles across her nose, the faint crease between her brows, the way her mouth trembled just a little. "You know this might not be neat or easy," she said. "It might hurt. It might get messy." "Most things that matter do," I said quietly. For a long second, I thought she was going to step back, make a joke, change the subject. Instead, she lifted her hand and set it flat against my chest, right over my heart. The same place that had pounded so hard in her kitchen that first night. "It is racing again," she whispered. "Only around you," I said. I covered her hand with mine, warm skin under my fingers. Her eyes shone, but no tears fell. "I cannot promise you some movie version," she said. I will not sneak around. I will not lie to my son. I do not want to pretend you are just Mark's friend who drops by with chargers." "Then we do not pretend," I said. "We go slow. We stay honest. We see where this goes. If it starts to feel wrong, you say the word, and I stop. For real." She searched my face, like she was checking every corner for something she missed. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Okay," she said softly. "For now, we let it be what it is." She dropped her hand from my chest, but her fingers slid down into mine. Our hands fit together like it was the most natural thing in the world, and also the strangest. We moved out to the back porch again, still holding hands for a few steps before we let go. The sky was deep blue now, the first stars showing. The fairy lights along the railing glowed softly. We sat on the steps, shoulders almost touching, the way we had so many times now. The space between us felt different. Not just empty air, but something shared. "You know," she said after a while, looking out at the yard, "if that cat had not gotten stuck in my basement, you would not be here like this." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I would have found another excuse. A broken lamp, a bad faucet, something." She smiled, that slow, sideways smile that made my chest ache. "And if I had not called you," she said, "I would still be downstairs listening to that cry, trying to pretend I was not just as stuck." We fell quiet. Crickets sang. Somewhere, a dog barked in the distance. The house behind us glowed softly through the glass. I thought back to that first night. To her in the kitchen with flour on her cheek, holding a glass of water, looking at me with those careful eyes. "You came just for me?" I turned my head and looked at her now. At the woman next to me, hair loose, fingers resting close enough to mine that we could reach for each other any time. She felt my gaze and met it. "What?" she asked, a small smile touching her lips. "Nothing," I said. "I was just answering a question." "What question?" she asked. "The one you asked me that first night," I said. "In the kitchen, when you looked at me and asked if I came just for you." Her face softened. I could see the memory in her eyes, too. "And?" she asked quietly. I slid my hand over until my fingers curled around hers. She did not pull away. "Yes," I said. "Yeah, I did. I do." She let out a breath that sounded like a secret she had been holding for a long time. Then she leaned in, slow and careful, and rested her forehead against mine. Not a movie kiss, not a rush, just two people not running away. "For now," she whispered, her fingers squeezing mine. "That is enough." For the first time in a long time, it really was.